Republicans blocked a vote in Congress about the U.S.'s role in Saudi Arabia's massacre of Yemen. And listen, this is a life or death situation. You have people who are dying every single day in Yemen. The original estimates were about 12,000 people dead. Now the new estimates are 60 to 70,000 people dead. So this is from bombing of mosques, open-air markets, hospitals, schools. There was an instance where Saudi Arabia bombed a school for the deaf. School for deaf or blind. It's just grotesque what they're doing. It's criminal what they're doing. They've been doing it with our backing every step of the way, with our weapons and other allies of ours' weapons. So it's unacceptable. And you have very few voices standing up and really speaking out to stop this. And history will not view that kindly, man. History will view this exactly like you and I think they're going to view it, the evil empire being so callous to human life that they just casually sit by and watch as a genocide happens with our weapons from one of our top allies, Saudi Arabia. So Khanna brings up a bill to vote on this. He wants to end it, and Republicans block it. So Khanna takes to the floor, and he gives this passionate speech.
I rise in strong opposition to this rule that will deny members of Congress an up or down vote about whether the United States should be complicit in the war in Yemen. Let's be very clear. This is unprecedented. In American history, never has the Speaker of the House and the majority denied a member of Congress a vote on matters of war and peace. This is basically rendering ineffectual the War Powers Act. The War Powers Act was passed in a bipartisan fashion after Vietnam because our nation said never again are we going to make the mistake of Vietnam. We're going to make sure that if a member of Congress calls for a vote, that members of Congress have the Article 1, Section 8 responsibility to vote on matters of war and peace. And what the majority is saying, that if the President of the United States and the Speaker believe we should be in war, we should be in war. It doesn't matter what members of Congress think. That's what they are doing with this rule. Now, they are arguing that we are not complicit in the hostilities of Yemen to invoke the War Powers Act. But you read every article written on this in the international press or national press, and it starts with a simple line: the U.S.-backed Saudi coalition efforts in bombing. Of course we're complicit. Do you think people in Yemen don't think we're complicit? Do you think people in the Middle East or our allies don't think we are complicit? With due respect, Congressman Newhouse says, well, why not wait? Why not wait a few weeks until we're in the majority? Congressman Newhouse, Special Envoy Griffith and every report has said that 500,000 children will die. 500,000 children will die in the matter of months. They don't have aid. They don't have nutrition. And let's be very clear on what we're doing. While we're bombing the ports of Hodeidah, we are not allowing food and aid to get to those kids. And when history is written, they're not going to say Jim McGovern did this or Khanna did this or Newhouse did this. They're going to say, how did the Congress not allow a vote while hundreds of thousands of kids were not allowed food and medicine? That's not the America that I believe in. It's not the America that so many Republican colleagues believe in. There's a reason that our founders gave Congress the power over war and peace, because we have to go and answer to our constituents. And I'll tell you something, there's not a single American who wouldn't want the violence to end and allow food and medicine to get to those kids who are going to face death if we do nothing. I plead with my Republican colleagues, please vote no on this resolution. Let's have a debate. Let's have a debate about the starvation and the killing going on there and do the right thing for our Constitution and the world. I yield back the balance of my time.
That was powerful. Yeah, that was powerful. History is not going to treat what we're doing kindly. And they shouldn't, because it's devastating, and these are war crimes, and we are complicit in it, and very few voices are speaking up. Now, by the way, I also should mention that there's a rhetorical trick done by, unfortunately, many of the corporate Democrats. What they do is, and we saw this when Trump started bombing Syria, and he got a tremendous amount of credit from the mainstream media. They weren't skeptical of it. They loved it. But you had people like Tim Kaine come out and say, we need to have a vote on this. We need to have a vote. And I remember Adam Johnson pressed him on that on Twitter and basically said, okay, but if you had that vote, how would you vote? And he refused to answer. Johnson kept pressing him, and he refused to answer. So there's this weird thing that many corporatists do, who are warmongers. They'll beg to follow process, but then they don't tell you where they actually fall on the substantive question. They're just like nuance trolling. Like, oh, we have to have a vote. We have to follow the process. Now, I'm not going to tell you that if we did follow the process, I would agree with the bombing and the warmongering, but I'm just going to say we have to, because I have to resist somehow. So my resistance is let's have a vote. Now, Khanna is not like Tim Kaine. Khanna, make no mistake about it, is saying, no, literally, we need to have a vote because we have to. It's unconstitutional not to have a vote. But also, of course, I would vote against us aiding a massacre in Yemen. By the way, I totally disagree with the mainstream media framing of this as a war. It's a war. It's not a war. It's not a war. That totally disregards the asymmetrical power. We have a situation where Saudi Arabia, backed by the United States, the world's most powerful military ever in human history, Saudi Arabia is attacking the poorest Arab country. And that's why I went over the numbers before. 60 to 70,000 people dead. They are bombing schools. They are bombing hospitals. They are bombing mosques and open-air markets. Khanna spoke about the blockade there. Yes, they're doing a blockade. They're not allowing in food and medicine. There's a cholera outbreak. Cholera. Preventable, but there's an outbreak, and we don't care. People are dying of starvation. Children are dying of starvation. So we absolutely need to have a vote, and that vote needs to be overwhelming that we need to stop backing Saudi Arabia. Now, Trump recently announced, we're not going to refuel the jets anymore. Why did he announce that? Well, the cynical reason is now Saudi Arabia is better at refueling their own jets. So they go, we're going to stop refueling the jets and still totally back them and arm them and all that fun stuff. No more arming them. You immediately cut off all arms. The idea that they were on the UN Human Rights Council, get the fuck out of here. Saudi Arabia? They're carrying out a genocide right now. Human Rights Council. They behead people for sorcery and witchcraft. What kind of a sick joke is this? I'll tell you the kind of sick joke it is. It's a sick joke that an empire pulls because they say, hey, listen, as long as you're cool with us, we're the empire, we're the sole superpower. Well, I mean, you're by definition one of the good people, so we'll overlook everything negative you do, and we'll obfuscate on it, and we'll say stuff like, you're fighting a war. It ain't no damn war. It's not a war. It's a massacre. It's a genocide. That's what it is. And as Khanna has pointed out 1,000 times, we're bombing the Houthis in Yemen. Now, you do understand that we're bombing the Houthis, who are Shia, and our argument is, we're allowed to do this because of the war on terror. Excuse you? We're allowed to do this. So, in other words, Salafi jihadists, so Wahhabists, people, ultra-Orthodox fundamentalist Sunni ideology, they attack us, and we say, obviously we can attack Shias who had nothing to do with it. And we're going to do it in Yemen, another country that had nothing to do with it. Ironically enough, where did most of the hijackers come from on 9/11? Saudi Arabia. So somehow we back the fundamentalist Sunnis in Saudi Arabia to attack the Shias, and we do it with the approval of the war on terror, which was originally to go after the fundamentalist Sunnis who were responsible for 9/11. Did you know that Saudi Arabia is arming Sunni militias on the ground in Yemen to fight? And did you know Saudi Arabia is also arming fundamentalist Sunnis on the ground in Syria? You know who these fundamentalist Sunnis are? Al-Qaeda. So we're de facto aligned with Al-Qaeda for geopolitical reasons. So in other words, this has nothing to do with keeping us safe. This obviously has nothing to do with human rights, where we wouldn't be starving children to death. Guys, this is a sick joke. Look at what we've become. I mean, and by the way, how many times are we going to make the same mistake in history? Ronald Reagan did this. Ronald Reagan, let's arm the Mujahideen because they're freedom fighters in Afghanistan who are up against the big bad Soviet Union. Oh, shit. It turns out the Mujahideen became the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and they turned their weapons on us. The fuck do you think is going to happen with all these rebels we're backing in Syria? Fuck you think is going to happen with all these armed-to-the-teeth jihadists on the ground fighting in Yemen? Unbelievable what's happening. Unbelievable. We have to stop our complicity. Noam Chomsky said it best. You're responsible for what you do. So there's all this busybody, we need to protect freedom around the world and human rights. That's what we do, protect human rights. And again, the argument is, you want to be like a moral busybody? Great. Here's what you do. Stop the things that you're responsible for. All of the bad things that you do. That's how you make the world a better place. So you stop being the terrorist in many instances. Because what is terrorism? Violence against civilians for political or religious reason. You don't think we do violence against civilians for a political reason? Of course we do. When we arm Saudi Arabia to the teeth and refuel them as they're bombing innocent people, that's us participating in terrorism. That's what that is. So you want to make the world a better place? Immediately stop giving weapons to Saudi Arabia. Immediately stop giving weapons to all of the criminal regimes we give weapons to, who use those weapons in a willy-nilly way against civilians. So stop letting all of these arms flow into the Middle East for more profit, because that's one of the main reasons why we're doing it, more profit, the military-industrial complex. Stop that immediately. And then sanction people when they actually do violate human rights. So, Saudi Arabia, are they ripe for sanctions? Fuck yeah, they are. But we care more about our geopolitical alliances than we do about actual human rights and justice and freedom and liberty. And it's clear. And now women and children are dying, and it's like a Twilight Zone episode. Very few people actually care. Khanna is one of those voices in Washington who actually cares about what we're doing around the world with our money in our name. And he wants to immediately stop it. And he's 100% right for that. Everybody should be talking about that. And for all these Republicans, they're also giant hypocrites if they're not in favor of stopping this. Why? Apart from all the moral stuff I've already spoken about, these guys say they love small government. This is giant government. Let's give more weapons to a fucking fundamentalist regime. Are you kidding me? It's a ridiculous notion. It's insane. So when you look at Republican ideology, another thing they say is, we're strict originalists for the Constitution. Okay, so you want to take the Constitution at a plain-face reading. Well, in the Constitution, plain-face reading is Congress has to approve war. So in other words, the president cannot willy-nilly be like, we're going to send our troops here and there 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 and there. But now you're okay with that? No, you're supposed to be screaming from the top of your lungs and saying, we didn't have a vote on this, we have to vote on this. And by the way, I'd go a step further. You need to have a vote on it in the case of Yemen. You need to have a vote on it in the case of Pakistan. You need to have a vote on it in the case of Somalia. You need to have a vote on it for the shadow war we're waging in all of Africa. We're bombing 8 different countries right this second. The only place that we're authorized to be in is Afghanistan and Iraq. And even for those, you can argue that in the case of Iraq, we pulled out for a little bit and then went back in, so that original authorization shouldn't count anymore. In the case of Afghanistan, we should just get rid of it, the authorization for using military force, because we've already been there 17 years and we got dick to show for it. So, but point is, we're bombing 8 different countries, and we don't have a declaration of war for each of those 8 countries. So all of you strict constitutionalists should be screaming, we got to get out. Sorry, we got to follow the Constitution. But they're not. The only real principled ones on this point are Rand Paul and some others, but Most of them were just, I don't care. I'm a war hawk. I don't give a fuck. Ignore the Constitution. I don't care. I don't care about dying kids in Yemen. What the fuck do I care? I got a tea time at 3:30 at my country club. Sick joke, man. Credit to Khanna. He's a hero. We have to keep fighting on this stuff because lives are at stake.